Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're on 30th Juz, and there are more than 30 surahs in this last part. There are 114 surahs altogether, as we know, in the entire Quran. So we will start with the certain themes that I will mention from the beginning surahs and the last few surahs. I would like to give more details. It starts, and if you look at it, this Juz is mostly Makki. So it talks about those three aspects that we have covered: Tawheed, Risala, and Yawm al-Qiyamah. But this juz covers more of Yawm al-Qiyamah than any other juz, you could say. That's the predominant theme in this juz. So it starts with Surah Naba, which means the great news. And that's the news of the Day of Judgment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. And then it talks about Surah Al-Nazi'at. And basically in Nazi'at, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds people that when they would think that they have lived in this life forever, but on that Day of Judgment, they would say they lived maybe day or part of the day. Maybe in the evening. That's how much it's worth it, which seems like 80 years of worth of life living. And then the next one he talks about, Surah Al-Abasa wa Tawalla. He talks about the incident where a blind man came to the Prophet ﷺ. He was poor, and the Prophet ﷺ turned to those people who were affluent of that community. And the Prophet ﷺ is reminded that your job is to give da'wah. Irrespectful of who's where in terms of the dunyawi standards. Your job is to deliver the message and not to look at who has the position of authority or not. Similarly, this is what we're told. In the next few surahs, which starts with إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انْفَطَرَتْ, and another one which is إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us about these three surahs, and the word is إِذَا. When these things happen, these are the three surahs. If you want to know what's going to happen on the Day of Judgment, this will give you a clear view. This is from the Prophet ﷺ. Whoever wants to learn about what's going to happen on the Day of Judgment, one should read these surahs. Also, the Quran, especially this part, talks about the moral degradation of the people at that time. Surah Al-Mutaffifin talks about these people who, when they trade, when they give less. But when they take things, they take in full measure. Right? They're very careful. And this is the idea. If you don't have that understanding of accountability of Day of Judgment, you'll do that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us, never do that, because when the day comes, you have to give a full account on that day. And then Surah Al-Buruj, if you have heard the boy and the king, it really completes the story of the pre-Islamic era where one of the king, he tried to put these ditches of fire and tried to persuade people away from their deen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And their story has actually been hinted here, but the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ gives full detail about that story. And then Surah Al-Tariq, which also is a sort of sister surah to Surah Al-Buruj, and that surah also talks about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you from nothing. And oftentimes we hear that He created you from nutfa. He created you from dirt, from clay, all these things. Why? Because, and you will say, well, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention this instead of, other, noble things, maybe perhaps about insan? It's really talking about to a kafir with a mentality that I am arrogant and I am somebody. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says to them, look, you know who you are really, that you are so proud of yourself? We created you from a vile fluid. You want to talk about yourself? We created you from dirt. You want to talk about yourself? This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He brings Him to humble us, to make us feel that He's the Lord and we're simply abd. We're simply slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also in the next surah, Al-A'la, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Most High, and this is what the surah talks about. And then the Ghashiyah, the one that will cover up. And these are different names of the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever there's something of importance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses different names. Al-Qiyamah, Al-Yawm al-Hisab, Yawm al-Hasrati wa Nadama. All these other names have been used for us to start thinking about what's coming. And then Surah Al-Fajr, there's three beautiful ayat at the end of Surah Al-Fajr. Actually four. It talks about Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna, the soul that is going to have tuma'nina on the Day of Judgment, or in the barzakh. Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. The key phrase is enter into my servitude or amongst my slaves. And then it says, وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي, and then enter into Jannah. One has to become an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a worshipper of Allah, before you have the Jannah. He didn't say enter into my Jannah and then you could become my servant. No, it's the other way around. So we have to pay attention to the Quran. Surah Al-Balad talks about the Prophet ﷺ, the city, which is the city of Mecca, where how he is a legal resident, he's somebody who's a noble person from that city, and what the Meccans are doing is really dishonorable. It's something that is vile. It's something that is unethical, how they treat the Prophet ﷺ. The next two surahs, Surah Al-Shams and